The stars were dying, and Captain De Jong could do nothing but watch. His ship, the HDS Resilience, trembled as another plasma blast struck the shields. Through the viewport, he saw 3 human cruisers explode in brilliant flashes of light. They were gone in seconds, along with 1,500 souls. "Captain, shields at 40%, his first officer Tae-won reported. The man's voice was steady, but his hands gripped the console tight enough to turn his knuckles white. Dae-young looked at the tactical display. 50 red dots surrounded 15 blue ones. The Dominion fleet had been trapped near Arcturus colony. Behind them, transport ships filled with civilians tried to escape. Women, children, families who just wanted to live. The Dominion didn't care. They wanted humanity extinct. All ships maintain formation. "We hold this line until the last transport jumps to safety," Dae-young ordered into the comms. Admiral Hana's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired, older than her 50 years. Dark circles hung under her eyes. She was coordinating the war from a bunker beneath Seoul, watching humanity lose system after system. "Dae-young, you need to fall back." "You've done enough," she said. "Not yet. 2 more transports need another 5 minutes, he replied. "You won't have 5 minutes. The Dominion is sending reinforcements. Then we'll buy the time anyway." Admiral Hana closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. She understood. They all understood. This was the end. Earth's colonies were falling. The fleet was scattered and broken. In a few weeks, maybe a month, the Dominion would reach Earth itself. Then humanity would be nothing but a memory. "Captain!" Lieutenant Jiwan shouted from the sensor station. The young woman's eyes were wide with confusion. "I'm reading something strange. There's a gravitational anomaly forming at the edge of the system." "What kind of anomaly?" Tae-won asked. "I don't know. It's like space is tearing itself apart. The readings don't make any sense." Dae-young moved to look at her display. The numbers were impossible. Space was folding in on itself, creating a wound in reality. He had never seen anything like it. Could it be a Dominion weapon? He asked. "No, sir. This is something else entirely." "It's growing." On the main screen, the stars began to twist. A dark spot appeared in space, expanding rapidly. It looked like someone had cut a hole in the universe. Purple and black energy crackled around its edges. The Dominion ships noticed it too. Their formation broke apart as they moved away from the anomaly. Even they seemed afraid of it. Then something emerged from the tier in space. Thought it was a ship. But calling it just a ship was like calling an ocean just water. The vessel was massive, easily 5 times larger than the biggest Dominion dreadnought. Its hull was dark gray, marked with scars that looked like battle damage from 1,000 fights. And on its side, in white letters that seemed impossible, were words in English and Korean. "U-E's Hammer of Dawn." "That's not possible," Tae-won whispered. Dae-young's heart nearly stopped. Every human alive knew that name. The Hammer of Dawn was a legend, a ghost story told in the fleet. It was humanity's first supercarrier, built during the early days of space exploration. 200 years ago, it had jumped into deep space for a routine survey mission. It never came back. 3,000 crew members lost. The ship was declared destroyed, mourned, and remembered as a tragedy. But here it was, real, solid, and very much alive out the Hammer of Dawn powered up. Its hull lit with blue light as weapon systems came online. Dae-young counted at least 200 gun ports, more than any human ship currently possessed. The carrier began moving forward, heading straight toward the Dominion fleet. "Are they insane?" Ji-won said. "1 ship against 50? The Dominion apparently thought the same thing. 20 of their warships broke formation and moved to intercept. their plasma cannons charged, ready to tear the strange vessel apart. The Hammer of Dawn fired first. Beams of pure white energy lanced out from its weapons. They didn't look like any human or Dominion technology Dae-Jung had ever seen. The beams struck the Dominion ships, and what happened next made him question everything he knew about physics, that the enemy vessels simply disappeared. Not exploded, not destroyed. They were there one moment and gone the next, erased from existence as if they had never been. No debris, no explosions. Just empty space where warships had been seconds before. The remaining Dominion ships opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the Hammer of Dawn. The carrier's shields activated, creating a shimmering barrier of blue light. The enemy weapons hit the shields and dissipated like rain on glass. Not a single shot got through. The Hammer of Dawn continued firing. More white beams. More Dominion ships vanishing. In less than 5 minutes, 30 enemy warships were gone. The remaining 20 turned and ran, their engines burning hot as they jumped into hyperspace. Silence filled the bridge of the Resilience. Everyone stared at the main screen in shock. The dark tier in space began to close, the purple energy fading until nothing remained but normal space. The Hammer of Dawn came to a stop, floating between the human fleet and where the Dominion ships had been. Dae-Jung's communication console beeped. An incoming message. He accepted it with shaking hands. A man's face appeared on the screen. He looked young, maybe 30, with short black hair and sharp eyes that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. He wore a uniform that was 200 years out of date. The old Earth Defense Force design from before the current war. Earth Defense Fleet. This is Commander Hyan Wu of the U.E.'s Hammer of Dawn, the man said. His voice was calm, controlled, like he had just finished a routine patrol instead of destroying an enemy battle group. We received your distress signals across the dimensional barrier. We apologize for taking so long to arrive. This is Captain Dae-Jung of the HDS Resilience, he managed to say. Commander, your ship was lost 200 years ago. How is this possible? Hyan Wu's expression didn't change. Time is flexible, Captain. We've been gone 50 years from our perspective. We learned many things while we were away. We learned how to survive, how to fight, and we learned that the Dominion must be stopped. Admiral Hannah's face appeared in a split screen. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Commander Hyan Wu, this is Admiral Hannah, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. We need to talk. Agreed, Admiral. But first, let's make sure those transports reach safety. We have a lot to discuss, and we have a war to win. The Hammer of Dawn's engines glowed as it moved into position, placing itself between the human fleet and any potential threats. The supercarrier that had been lost in the void had returned, and it had returned to save humanity. Captain Dae-Jung stood in the shuttle bay of the Hammer of Dawn and felt like he had stepped into a museum. The walls were clean, almost too clean for a warship that should have been lost for 2 centuries. The metal gleamed under bright lights, and the air smelled fresh, processed by systems that hummed quietly in the background. This way, Captain, a young woman said. She wore the old Earth Defense Force uniform, crisp and perfect. Her name tag read Lieutenant Yun-ji. She couldn't have been more than 25, but something about her eyes made Dae-Jung think she had seen more combat than he had. Tio-an walked beside him, his head turning to take in everything. This is incredible. The ship looks brand new. We maintain her well, Yun-ji said simply. The commander insists on it. A ship is only as good as the crew that cares for it. They walked through corridors that should have felt ancient, but somehow felt more advanced than anything on the Resilience. The lighting was better. The displays were clearer. Even the air felt different, charged with energy. They entered a large conference room where Commander Hyan Wu waited. He stood by a viewport that showed Earth in the distance, a blue marble against the black of space. With him were two others, a woman with kind eyes and a scientist's bearing, and a man built like a mountain with scars across his hands. Captain Dae-Jung, Commander Tae-1, welcome aboard the Hammer of Dawn, Hyan-Woo said. This is Dr. Minji, our Chief Science Officer, and Colonel Dong-Jun, Commander of our Marine Forces. They shook hands. Dr. Minji's grip was gentle but confident. Colonel Dong-Chun's was like shaking hands with iron. Please sit, Hyan-Woo said. I imagine you have many questions. Where have you been? Dae-Jung asked directly. There was no point dancing around it. Hyan-Woo nodded like he expected the question. We were pulled through a dimensional rift. One moment we were conducting a survey of deep space. The next we were somewhere else. Somewhere that shouldn't exist according to normal physics. We called it the deep void. Dr. Minji activated a holographic display. It showed swirling patterns of purple and black energy, impossible geometries that hurt to look at. The deep void is a pocket universe. Time doesn't work the same way there. Physics operates under different rules. We spent 50 years there, but 200 years passed here. 50 years? Tae-1 said. But you all look so young. Time dilation, Dr. Minji explained. In the deep void, we aged normally. But when we finally found a way back, we discovered that much more time had passed in our home universe. What did you do there for 50 years? Dae-Jung asked. Colonel Dong-Jun leaned forward. We survived. At first, we thought we would die there. The void was hostile, full of spatial anomalies that could tear a ship apart. We lost people learning how to navigate it. Good people. Hyan-Woo's face darkened with memory. We drifted for months before we found something. Ruins, massive structures floating in the void, built by beings we came to call the architects. The hologram changed, showing enormous constructs. They looked like buildings but wrong, like they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could properly see. Towers that spiraled into impossible angles. Platforms that seemed to fold space around them. The architects were ancient, Dr. Minji continued. Their civilization was millions of years old. They had mastered technology that makes both human and Dominion science look primitive. Faster than light travel without hyperspace. Weapons that manipulate reality itself. Shields that exist outside normal time. What happened to them? Dae-Jung asked, though part of him already knew the answer. The Dominion happened, Hyan-Woo said quietly. Or rather, the species that became the Dominion. Millions of years ago, they encountered the architects. Instead of learning from them, they tried to conquer them. The war lasted thousands of years. Eventually, the architects lost. But before they died, they retreated to the deep void. It was their last refuge. They left behind their knowledge, Dr. Minji said. Libraries of data. Working examples of their technology. It took us decades to understand even a fraction of it. But we learned. We had to. Because we understood something important. She changed the hologram again. Now it showed the Dominion's expansion through the galaxy over thousands of years. World after world falling. Species after species going extinct. The Dominion follows a pattern, she said. They consume. They destroy. They move on. They've done it hundreds of times. The architects left warnings about them. They're not just conquering the galaxy. They're eliminating any species that could become a threat. Any civilization that shows promise gets destroyed before it can grow strong enough to resist. Humanity was next on their list, Colonel Dong-Jun added. We were always going to be exterminated. It was just a matter of when. Dae-Jung felt cold. Everything they had thought about the war was wrong. The Dominion wasn't expanding naturally. They weren't just another empire seeking resources. They were genocidal exterminators, following a philosophy millions of years old. So you studied the architect's technology, Tae-won said. You learned how to build weapons like the ones you used against the Dominion fleet. Yes, Hyan-woo confirmed. We spent 30 years learning, 10 years building, 5 years testing. We upgraded the Hammer of Dawn with everything we could understand and integrate. New shields, new weapons, new engines. We became something more than we were. Why didn't you come back sooner? Dae-young asked. If you had this power, you could have helped us years ago. Dr. Minji's expression turned sad. We tried. For years, we tried to find a way back. The deep void doesn't let go easily. We needed to build a rift generator using architect designs. It took years to gather enough materials to understand the principles. And we only got one chance. If it failed, we would be trapped forever. We activated it 3 days ago, Hyan-woo said. Our sensors detected distress signals bleeding through the dimensional barrier. Human distress signals. We knew Earth was in danger. So we made the jump, not knowing if we would survive the transition. We had to try. We couldn't let humanity die while we hid in another dimension. Silence filled the room. Ju-jung looked at these people, these ghosts from the past, who had survived impossible odds. They had been thrown into a hostile universe, learned from extinct gods, and clawed their way back to save a world that had given them up for dead. What happened to your families? He asked quietly. Your friends? Everyone you knew is gone. Hyan-woo's face showed the first real emotion Dae-young had seen. Pain. Deep, old pain. We knew the risk when we activated the rift generator. We knew we might return to find centuries had passed. But we made a choice. Every person on this ship made a choice. We swore an oath in the deep void, standing in the ruins of the architects. If we ever found a way home, we would use what we learned to protect humanity, to break the cycle of extinction that the Dominion represents. Colonel Dong-jun stood up, his voice hard as steel. We lost our families. We lost our old lives. But we gained something else. Purpose. We're not just soldiers anymore. We're humanity's sword, forged in the void, sharpened by the knowledge of the dead. And we're going to cut the Dominion down. Admiral Hana's face appeared on the communication screen. She had been listening to everything. Commander Hyan-woo, your crew and your ship are a miracle. But can you really help us win this war? The Dominion has thousands of ships. They control half the galaxy. Hyan-woo smiled for the first time. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally found his prey. Admiral, we didn't just learn how to build better weapons. We learned how to think like the architects. We learned strategy from beings who fought wars across dimensions. And most importantly, we learned that the Dominion isn't invincible. They can be beaten. They can bleed. And we're going to teach them fear. Dae-young stood up and extended his hand. Then let's win this war. Together. Hyan-woo shook his hand firmly. Together. The Titan Nebula glowed with purple and red gases, a massive cloud of stellar matter that stretched across millions of kilometers. It was beautiful. It was also about to become a battlefield. All ships report ready, Tae-won said from his station on the Resilience. Captain Dae-young studied the tactical display. 300 human ships arranged in a defensive sphere. In the center, like a steel heart, sat the Hammer of Dawn. Around them, the nebula's gases would interfere with sensors and targeting. It was the best defensive position they could find. It wouldn't be enough. Enemy fleet detected, Ji-won announced. 2,000 contacts. They're coming straight at us. 2,000. Dae-young had known the numbers would be bad, but seeing them made his stomach turn. Even with the architect technology Commander Hyan-woo had shared, Even with upgraded shields and weapons, they were outnumbered almost 7-1. Warlord Thraken's face appeared on the main screen. The Dominion commander looked like a nightmare, all sharp angles and dark plates that covered his body like armor. His eyes were yellow, reptilian, cold. "Human fleet, you will surrender immediately," Thraken said. "Deliver the ship called Hammer of Dawn to us, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will make every human beg for extinction." Admiral Hannah's face appeared beside Thraken's on a split screen. She was broadcasting from Earth. "Warlord Thraken, this is Admiral Hannah of the Human Defense Forces. We have a counteroffer. Leave our space immediately, and we'll let you live." Thraken laughed. It sounded like metal scraping on stone. "Foolish. You have one ship with stolen technology. We have conquered 47 species across 1,000 worlds. You are nothing but insects waiting to be crushed." Commander Hyan Wu's voice came over the fleet channel. "All ships, this is Hammer of Dawn. Prepare for combat. Stay within the shield envelope. Trust your training. Remember what we're fighting for." The Dominion fleet entered the nebula. Their formation was perfect, disciplined. They had done this hundreds of times before. Overwhelming force, applied with surgical precision. Species after species had died against these tactics, but they had never fought anyone who learned from the architects. Enemy opening fire. G1 reported. Thousands of plasma bolts and missiles streaked through the nebula. They came like a wave of death, enough firepower to glass a planet. The human fleet's shields lit up as the weapons struck dot and held. The upgraded shields, based on architect designs, absorbed the impact. Ships rocked but didn't break. The shield envelope around the Hammer of Dawn extended outward, creating a protective bubble around the entire human formation. "Return fire." Dai Jung ordered. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Railguns, missiles, energy weapons, all enhanced with technology from the deep void. The weapons struck Dominion shields, and this time they penetrated. Enemy ships exploded, their hulls torn apart by weapons that could punch through their defenses. But the real devastation came from the Hammer of Dawn. The Supercarrier's main weapons charged with a sound that resonated through space itself. White light built at dozens of firing ports along the hull. Then it released. The cascade drivers fired. Beams of dimensional energy lanced out, each one targeting a Dominion warship. Where the beams struck, reality itself seemed to break. The enemy vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, erased from the universe as if they had never been built. 20 ships gone in seconds. "Launch fighters," Hyan Wu ordered. The Hammer of Dawn's fighter bays opened. Small craft poured out like angry wasps. But these weren't normal fighters. They moved too fast, turned too sharply. The pilots who flew them had trained in the deep void where normal physics didn't apply. They had learned to fly in ways that seemed impossible. Lieutenant Yunji led the fighter wing. Her voice was calm over the comms. "All wings engage at will. Show them what we learned." The fighters tore into the Dominion formation. They moved like they could predict where the enemy would shoot before they fired. They dodged plasma bolts that should have hit them. They struck at weak points in Dominion armor that shouldn't have been visible. One fighter took on 3 enemy craft and won. Yunji's fighter danced between them, her weapons striking with perfect accuracy. 2 enemies destroyed in seconds. The third tried to run. She caught it anyway. Warlord Thraken's confident expression was gone. He stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "This is impossible. They're just humans. How are they doing this?" Colonel Dongshun's marine transports launched from the Hammer of Dawn. They flew straight at a Dominion command carrier, their trajectory seeming suicidal. Dominion point defense opened up, trying to shoot them down. The transports activated architect shields. The enemy fire bounced off. They crashed into the carrier's docking bay, breaching the hull. Marines poured out in full combat armor, enhanced with technology that made them faster and stronger. Go, go, go. Dongjun roared over the squad channel. Take the bridge. The Dominion crew tried to fight back. They were trained warriors who had fought across the galaxy. But the human Marines moved like ghosts. They knew where the enemy would be before they got there. They struck from unexpected angles. Within minutes, the command carrier's bridge was secured. Back in space, the battle continued. The Dominion kept coming, throwing more and more ships into the fight. They were used to winning through sheer numbers. It had always worked before, not this time. The human fleet fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. Dr. Minji had shared architect battle networks with them. Every ship was connected, sharing targeting data, shield frequencies, and tactical information instantly. They fought not as 300 individual ships, but as one organism with many parts. The Resilience took a hit that got through its shields. The ship shook violently. Hull breach on Deck 7. Tae-1 shouted. Seal it and keep firing, Dae-Jung ordered. His ship wasn't going to stop. None of them were. Hours passed. The nebula was full of debris now, wreckage from hundreds of destroyed ships. But most of it was Dominion wreckage. Warlord Thraken stared at his displays in growing horror. He had started with 2,000 ships. Now he had barely 600. The human fleet had lost 40 vessels. 40, against his entire armada. This isn't possible, he whispered. They're humans. They're supposed to be weak. His tactical officer's voice shook. Warlord, we need to retreat. We're being slaughtered. No. We are the Dominion. We do not retreat from insects. Another wave of cascade driver beams erased 50 more of his ships. Thraken's pride finally broke. All ships, emergency jump. Retreat. Retreat. The surviving Dominion vessels turned and fled, their engines burning hot as they jumped into hyperspace. They left behind debris and death. Their perfect formation shattered. The human fleet held position, weapons still charged, ready for another attack. But none came. Silence filled the communications channels for a long moment. Then someone started cheering. First one voice, then 10, then hundreds. The entire fleet erupted in celebration. We did it, Jiwan said, tears streaming down her face. We actually did it. Tianjung slumped in his command chair, exhausted. Around him, his crew was crying, laughing, hugging each other. They had faced impossible odds, and one. Admiral Hana's face appeared on screen. She was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in years. All ships, well done. You've accomplished something incredible today. You've proven that humanity can fight back, that we can win. Commander Hyan Wu's voice came over the channel. This is just the beginning. We've bloodied them, but the Dominion won't stop. They'll come back with more ships, more weapons. We need to be ready. We will be, Dae-Jung said, because now we have hope. Now we know we can beat them. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had won a major battle against the Dominion. Species that had been conquered and subjugated heard the news. Some of them dared to hope. Some of them dared to resist. The Dominion had ruled through fear for thousands of years. That fear was beginning to crack. And in the Titan Nebula, 300 human ships and one ancient supercarrier proved that even the mightiest empire could bleed. Emperor Vorath sat on his throne of black metal and watched the galaxy burn. The throne room was massive, carved from a single piece of asteroid, lit by the glow of 100 conquered suns displayed on holographic screens. He had ruled the Dominion for 300 years, crushing rebellion after rebellion, exterminating species after species. And now, for the first time in centuries, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Anger. "Show me again," he commanded. Warlord Thraken, standing at the base of the throne with his head bowed, gestured. The hologram replayed the battle at Titan Nebula. 2,000 Dominion ships engaging 300 human vessels. The humans should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, the Dominion fleet was massacred. "Explain to me," Voreth said, his voice soft and dangerous, "how you managed to lose 1,400 ships to primitives." "The humans have acquired advanced technology, my Emperor," Thraken said. "The ship called Hammer of Dawn possesses weapons and defenses beyond anything we've encountered. It erases our vessels from existence. Its fighters move in ways that defy physics. And the humans fought with a coordination that suggests they're using networked battle systems." "So you're telling me," Voreth said, standing from his throne, "that one human ship made you flee like a coward?" "My Emperor," Voreth's hand moved faster than sight. Thraken's head hit the floor before his body realized it was dead. Guards dragged the corpse away immediately. "Send out the call," Voreth commanded his advisors. "Assemble the Grand Armada. 10,000 ships. I will personally lead them to Earth. We will make an example of humanity that the entire galaxy will remember for the next 1,000,000 years." The advisors bowed and hurried to follow orders. Voreth stared at the hologram showing Earth, that small blue world that dared to resist. He would enjoy crushing it personally. On the Hammer of Dawn, Dr. Minji stood in her laboratory surrounded by holographic displays. The data flowing across them would have driven most scientists mad. Architect mathematics operated on principles that human minds weren't designed to understand. But Minji had spent 30 years in the deep void learning. Commander Haiyan Wu entered the lab. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes," Minji said, her face troubled. "I've been analyzing the architect databases. There's something we found in the ruins, but never discussed with the others. A weapon called the Void Hammer." She brought up schematics. Haiyan Wu studied them, his expression growing darker with each second. "This weapon creates a cascading dimensional collapse," Minji explained. "It would tear open rifts in space that consume everything in range. Stars, planets, entire systems. The architects designed it as a last resort weapon against the early Dominion. Did they use it?" Haiyan Wu asked. "Yes, once. It destroyed an entire sector of space, thousands of worlds, including their own worlds. That's why they fled to the deep void. The weapon worked, but the cost was too high. Why are you telling me this?" Minji met his eyes. "Because I built a prototype. In the deep void, using materials from the ruins. It's in the Hammer of Dawn's weapons vault. I never told anyone because I hoped we'd never need it." Haiyan Wu was quiet for a long moment. "The architects fell because they relied on weapons of mass destruction. We can't make the same mistake." "I know. But if the Dominion comes with everything they have, if Earth is about to fall, we need every option available. We'll only use it if there's absolutely no other choice. If we use weapons like that, we become no better than the Dominion." Meanwhile, Captain Dae Jung stood on the bridge of the Resilience, which was docked at Mars Station for repairs. His crew was training with Marines from the Hammer of Dawn, learning new tactics and combat techniques. Ensign Kyung-mi, a young communications officer, approached him with a data pad. "Captain, the latest reports from our scout ships. The Dominion is mobilizing. They're pulling ships from across their empire." "How many ships?" "At least 10,000, sir. Maybe more. They're assembling near their core worlds." Dae Jung felt cold. 10,000 ships. Even with architect technology. Even with the Hammer of Dawn. Those numbers were overwhelming. Send the data to Admiral Hana immediately. On Earth, General Byung-ho inspected the defensive positions being built around every major city. He was a career soldier, 60 years old, with a face carved from stone and eyes that had seen too much war. His ground forces were preparing for the worst-case scenario, invasion. The orbital defense platforms are online, his aide reported, and we've distributed architect-enhanced weapons to every military unit on the planet. It won't be enough, Byung-ho said quietly. If they get past the fleet, if they land troops on Earth, we'll fight them street by street, building by building. But we'll run out of soldiers before they run out of warriors. Then we make every street cost them dearly, sir. Byung-ho nodded. That was all they could do. Fight until the end. 3 weeks later, the Grand Armada arrived. It emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of locusts. 10,000 warships, ranging from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. And at their center was the Eternal Throne, Emperor Voroth's personal flagship. It was twice the size of the Hammer of Dawn, a vessel built to conquer galaxies. The human fleet assembled at Mars orbit. 800 ships now, thanks to every vessel that could be scraped together from across human space. The Hammer of Dawn led them, with the Resilience at its side. They're not attacking, Jiwan reported. They're just sitting there, waiting for us to make the first move. Tae-1 said. Emperor Voroth's face appeared on every screen in the human fleet. Humans, you have fought well. You have caused us losses. For this, I almost respect you. Almost. The image shifted. It showed dozens of transport ships, but not Dominion transports. They were human civilian vessels, captured from outlying colonies. These ships contain 5 million human civilians, Voroth said. Men, women, children. I'm placing them at the front of my formation. If you fire on us, you kill them first. So here is my offer. Surrender the ship called Hammer of Dawn. Give us its technology, and I will let these civilians live. I will even let Earth survive as a conquered world. Refuse, and I will use these humans as shields while I destroy everything you love. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge of the Hammer of Dawn. Commander Hyan-woo stared at the tactical display. His hands clenched into fists. He's bluffing, Colonel Dongjon said. He'll kill them anyway. No, Dr. Minji said quietly. He's not bluffing. This is what the Dominion does. They've used civilian shields hundreds of times. It's standard doctrine for them. Admiral Hana's face appeared on screen. Commander Hyan-woo, I can't ask you to sacrifice 5 million people. If we need to surrender the hammer to save them. No, Hyan-woo interrupted. If we surrender, he'll kill them anyway and take our only chance at winning this war. But I won't sacrifice them either. Then what do we do? Dae-young asked. Before Hyan-woo could answer, Lieutenant Jiwan gasped. Sir, I'm detecting spatial anomalies. Multiple ones. All around the system. The Dominion reinforcements? Tae-1 asked. No, sir. These are void rifts, like the one the hammer came through. The rifts opened, and through them came ships, not human ships. Alien vessels of dozens of different designs. Some looked like living creatures. Others were geometric constructs of metal and light. They came from all directions, hundreds of them, then thousands. And at their head was another Earth vessel. The UE Seviant Sunrise, heavy cruiser, lost 200 years ago with the Hammer of Dawn. A transmission came through. A man's face, Korean like Hyan-woo, but older, with silver in his hair. This is Captain Sang-hoon of the Defiant Sunrise. Sorry we're late, Commander. We've been busy gathering friends. Hyan-woo smiled, really smiled, for the first time since arriving back in normal space. Captain Sang-hoon. Good to see you're still alive. The deep void couldn't kill us. We found other pocket dimensions, other species hiding from the Dominion. We taught them about the Architect's technology. And when we detected your rift opening, we knew it was time. Time to stop hiding and start fighting. Emperor Vorith stared at his displays in disbelief as more and more ships emerged. His 10,000-vessel armada was now facing over 15,000 combined forces. Emperor Vorath stared at the tactical display as more ships kept appearing through void rifts. Alien vessels from species he thought he had crushed decades ago. Civilizations that should have been extinct were here, alive and angry. How is this possible? He demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook. My Emperor, they're using the same dimensional technology as the human ship. They must have been hiding in pocket universes all this time. Vorith's eyes narrowed. The humans hadn't just found Architect technology. They had shared it. They had armed the oppressed and given hope to the defeated. It was brilliant and infuriating. All ships maintain formation. Keep the human civilians at the front. They won't dare fire, but Commander Hyan Wu had other plans. Dr. Minji, he said over the secure channel. The Void Hammer. Can you recalibrate it? What do you mean? She asked. The architects used it to destroy. Can we use it to save? Can we create stable dimensional passages instead of destructive ones? Minji's fingers flew across her console. Maybe, if I reverse the polarity and limit the output, it would create portals instead of collapse points. But I've never tested it. It could tear the ship apart. Do it. We're going to evacuate those civilians right through the Dominion lines. Admiral Hana's eyes widened. That's insane. That's humanity, Hyan Wu replied. The Hammer of Dawn's main weapon charged, but differently than before. Instead of white energy, purple light built at the firing ports. The same color as the void rifts. Emperor Vorith noticed. All ships fire. Don't let them complete whatever they're doing. The Dominion fleet opened up with everything. 10,000 ships firing simultaneously. But the Allied fleet was ready. They created a shield wall, every ship channeling power to their defenses. The barrage struck the shields like a hammer hitting diamond. The ships rocked but held. The Hammer of Dawn fired the void hammer. Purple beams lanced out, not at the Dominion ships, but past them. The beams struck space itself behind the civilian transports and tore open portals. Stable dimensional passages that led directly to safe space behind the human lines. All civilian ships, this is Commander Hyan Wu. Emergency evacuation protocols. Fly through the portals now. The transport ships didn't hesitate. Their engines burned as they raced toward the portals. The Dominion tried to shoot them down, but the Allied fleet's fighters swarmed forward, blocking shots, drawing fire, sacrificing themselves to protect the civilians. Lieutenant Yungji's fighter took a plasma bolt meant for a transport. Her shields failed, her hull breached. But she kept flying, kept shooting, giving the transport time to reach the portal. Got you covered. Go, go, go. Her fighter exploded. But the transport made it through. One by one, the civilian ships escaped through the portals. 5 million people saved. The Dominion's hostages were gone. Now, Admiral Hana commanded, now we hit them with everything. The Allied fleet surged forward. 800 human ships. 7,000 alien vessels. All of them united against a common enemy. All of them remembering worlds lost, families destroyed, species nearly exterminated. The largest space battle in galactic history began. Captain D. Young guided the Resilience into the thick of it. His crew fired with precision, targeting Dominion command ships. Around him, vessels from 100 worlds fought with desperate courage. a bird-like species called the kestrel flew ships that moved like their namesakes, striking fast and hard. A crystalline race called the Lumina used weapons made of concentrated light that burned through. Dominion armor. The Dominion was strong. They had numbers and discipline. But the Allied fleet had something the Dominion had never faced before. They had hoped Colonel Dong Jun led another boarding action. His Marines hit the Eternal Throne itself, crashing through its shields with transports protected by architect technology. They fought through corridors filled with Dominion elite guards. "Keep pushing," Dong Jun roared, his rifle firing in controlled bursts. "We take the Emperor. We end this." Dominion warriors fell back, unable to match the Marines' speed and ferocity. These humans had trained in the deep void, had learned to fight in ways that seemed impossible. They moved like they could see the future, striking where the enemy would be before they got their dot in space. The battle raged. Ships exploded. Plasma filled the void. The Hammer of Dawn fought alongside the Defiant Sunrise, two ghosts from humanity's past, destroying the Dominion's present. Captain Sang-hoon's voice came over the channel. "Just like old times, Commander." "Just like old times," Hyan-woo agreed, firing the Cascade drivers again. More Dominion ships erased from existence. Emperor Vorath watched his perfect formation fall apart. The humans and their allies were winning. Impossible. Unacceptable. He reached for a control panel, ready to activate his ship's self-destruct weapon. If he was going to die, he would take them all with him. Colonel Dongchun's boot crashed through the door to the bridge. "I don't think so." Vorath spun, his personal shield activating. But Dongjun had fought beings with personal shields in the deep void. He knew their weakness. His rifle fired a specialized round that disrupted the field. The shield collapsed. Marines swarmed in. Vorath fought like a demon, his genetically enhanced body making him faster and stronger than any human. But not stronger than humans who had been enhanced with architect biotech. Not faster than warriors who had trained for 50 years in impossible conditions. They took him down, alive. "This is Colonel Dongjun to all Allied ships," he transmitted. "We have the Emperor. I repeat, we have Emperor Vorath in custody." The Dominion fleet hesitated. Their leader was captured. Their formation was broken. They were being destroyed. One by one, Dominion ships began to surrender. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The fight went out of them. They had never known defeat before. They didn't know how to process it. The battle ended not with a final explosion, but with silence. The silence of weapons powering down. The silence of ships lowering their shields. The silence of an empire finally broken. Admiral Hana transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Hana of Earth Defense Forces. To all Dominion vessels, you have two choices. Surrender and face trial for your crimes, or leave our space and never return. Choose now." Most surrendered. Some fled. None continued to fight. The war was over. The Dominion, which had ruled through fear for thousands of years, had fallen. Not destroyed, but defeated. Their emperor captured. Their myth of invincibility shattered. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. The Allied fleet didn't disband. Instead, they formed something new. The Unified Galactic Defense Force, a coalition dedicated to preventing any empire from ever rising to threaten others. The way the Dominion had. Commander Hyan-woo stood on the bridge of the Hammer of Dawn and watched as diplomatic vessels arrived at Earth, representatives from hundreds of worlds, all wanting to join the new alliance. Captain De Jong stood beside him. "How does it feel? Saving the galaxy?" "Strange," Hyan-woo admitted. "We left Earth 200 years ago for a routine survey mission. We came back to find everyone we knew was dead. Our families, our friends, our world moved on without us. But you saved them anyway. We had to. When we were in the deep void, when we thought we'd never get home, we made a promise. If we survived, if we found a way back, we wouldn't let humanity suffer what the architects suffered. We wouldn't let the Dominion win. You kept your promise. Haiyan Wu looked at Earth through the viewport. That blue marble, still beautiful, still alive. We all did. The crew of the Hammer. The crew of the Defiant Sunrise. Every person who refused to give up hope. That's what beat the Dominion. Not just architect technology. Hope. Admiral Hana promoted Captain Dae-Jung to commander of the First Unified Fleet. Lieutenant Ji-Wan became his first officer. Commander Tae-Won took command of the Resilience. Now upgraded with full architect systems. Dr. Minji established the Architect Research Institute on Earth's moon. Its mission was to study and preserve the knowledge from the deep void, ensuring it would be used for peace, not war. She insisted on strict ethical guidelines. No weapons of mass destruction. No technology that could threaten entire worlds. The Void Hammer was disassembled, its components locked away. Colonel Dong Jun trained a new generation of Marines. Not just humans, but volunteers from every species in the Alliance. They learned the lessons of the deep void, discipline, creativity, and the importance of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Lieutenant Yoonji survived her fighter's explosion. Badly injured but alive, rescued by the ship she had protected. She recovered and became an instructor, teaching pilots from across the galaxy the techniques she learned in that pocket universe where normal physics didn't apply. Emperor Vorith stood trial before a tribunal of species he had tried to exterminate. He showed no remorse. He claimed the Dominion had brought order to chaos, strength to weakness. The tribunal sentenced him to life imprisonment on a remote world, where he would live out his days remembering what he had lost. 6 months after the war ended, the Hammer of Dawn prepared for a new mission. Commander Haiyan Wu and Captain Sangun were going back to the deep void, but this time they weren't going alone. Volunteers from 100 worlds joined them. Scientists, explorers, warriors, all wanting to learn from the architect's ruins. Ready? Sang-hoon asked. Ready, Haiyan Wu confirmed. The Hammer of Dawn activated its void rift generator. Purple energy swirled, tearing open a passage to that impossible place where they had spent 50 years. This time, they went not as lost explorers, but as pioneers. Ready to unlock more secrets and share them with the galaxy. The rift closed behind them, leaving Earth's space peaceful and protected. Captain Dae-Jung stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the stars. They seemed brighter now, full of possibility instead of threat. Humanity had gone from the brink of extinction to leaders of a galactic alliance. They had proven that even the smallest species, when united and determined, could change everything. The Dominion was broken. The oppressed were free. And humanity, that stubborn species from a small blue world, had shown the galaxy what hope could accomplish. It was a new age. An age of exploration, cooperation, and peace. Hard won, paid for in blood and sacrifice. But real. And somewhere in the deep void, the Hammer of Dawn continued its mission, learning, growing, preparing for whatever challenges the future might bring, because that's what humanity did. They survived. They adapted. And when the void threatened to swallow them, they came back stronger.